So, I was not able to watch this live because I didn't even know that a state of play was happening because I was living like a normie in Ireland, and I was working on an oral argument that I had to do the next morning, and I decided to take a break and I checked Twitter, and I learned about this game by seeing that NTR meme of Marvel cheating on Capcom with Arc System Works. And as you can imagine, I was super confused when I saw that, but that is how I learned of this game. And then very shortly after that, I was able to discover why that meme was made. Obviously, it's extremely shocking that Marvel is having Arc System Works make this game and not Capcom, right? That's the elephant in the room. However, even though it is weird and even though it is kind of sad in a way that Capcom has now essentially lost Marvel versus Capcom, question mark, right? That's still a maybe. Even though Capcom has lost Marvel versus Capcom, and even though I love Marvel versus Capcom and prefer a Marvel game with Capcom characters in it than a pure Marvel game like this, I actually do think that this might end up being a net positive. Because for one, we're getting a really well-made, probably a really well-made Marvel fighting game by Arc System Works. Whereas before this announcement, we didn't even know if we were going to get a new Marvel fighting game at all, whether it be by Capcom or anyone else. But secondly, and maybe this is more so just me and a few other people in the minority, but I actually prefer the Capcom characters in Marvel vs. Capcom because I'm first and foremost a Capcom fan. I'm a diehard Capcom fan, and I'm a very casual Marvel fan. So I've always preferred the Capcom characters in MVC games, even though I've also liked the Marvel characters as well. The Capcom characters are my team, so to speak, right? So because Arc System Works is making a Marvel fighting game, and because that decreases the chances of Capcom making a Marvel fighting game, it makes me think, well, if they're bound to eventually make another Versus-style fighting game, that means now, because the chances of Marvel versus Capcom are lower, by proxy, it increases the chances of a pure Capcom versus game, which in my eyes would be better. Because like I said, I've always liked the Capcom characters more, and if we could get a full roster of Capcom characters, that roster is so much more likely going to include all the characters I want to see, right? All the characters I actually want to see. So that's what I'm thinking. Also, I think this might put some fire under Capcom to make another Versus game even more, because they can't just take this lying down, right? They can't just they can't just take Marvel cheating on them with Arc System Works lying down. They can't. They have to fight back with something. And maybe it would even be a Tatsunoko versus Capcom 2. I would prefer a Tatsunoko versus Capcom 2 or a pure Capcom versus game over Marvel versus Capcom. I know I'm in the minority when I say that, but that is, I think, the bright side to what's going on. Aside from this game by itself already looking really good, if that's not already a bright side in and of itself. Also, I don't think you guys are really missing out much on the fact that I didn't get a live reaction for this trailer, because when I actually did watch this trailer for the first time after I saw those memes on Twitter, I was pretty much just speechless the entire time, and I was kind of just watching it with my mouth open out of sheer shock of what I was seeing. So I don't think a live reaction would have been very exciting. I had to collect my thoughts afterwards and think about it for quite a bit. Marvel Rivals and Marvel Tōkon going to be dominating Marvel more than the MCU. I don't know if I'm going to ever have any reason to play Marvel Rivals after Marvel Tōkon comes out, to be honest, because every time I play Marvel Rivals, even though I have fun playing that game, every time I play Rivals, I'm thinking at the back of my mind, man, I wish this were a fighting game. I do think the name is incredibly stupid, though, because I know Tōkon is supposed to mean fighting souls or whatever, but if it does mean fighting souls, first of all, why do you have the subtitle say fighting souls? Why do you have a subtitle describing the title, right? But more importantly, I think the bigger issue is that when Americans say Tōkon over and over, they're going to eventually end up saying token, which sounds a lot like Tekken, which is a direct competitor of this game, right? So why would you want your players to be calling the game something so similar to what your competitor's game is, right? I think that's so stupid. They should have dropped Tōkon. They should have just called it Marvel Fighting Souls or something. Tōkon is way too similar to Tekken. I think it's crazy that the trailer's in Japanese, but I think they really wanted to get across the idea that this is Marvel characters as depicted by Japan, which feels very reminiscent to me of that X-Men anime that came out at a time when there weren't very many instances of Western IPs being given to Japanese companies. Because when that X-Men anime came out, it was kind of a big deal. Like, whoa, Japan is making an animation of something that's usually always American made. So I'm getting this same kind of marketing strategy here. Referencing Tōkon. They're trying to confuse the people who try to look up Tekken to get into it. Honestly, maybe there's some truth to that. Okay, I'm going to let this play through once, even though I've seen it already, but then I definitely want to go back and play it frame by frame. Because some of these animations are so eerily similar to the animations that Capcom did in their Marvel fighting game. So I'm so curious if this was done out of respect for Capcom's work, or if they're just big dogging Capcom, forcing them to watch while they make love to Arc System Works, right? Or Arc System Works making love to Marvel. However that goes, whoever's on top. Iron Man design is crazy. I also really like the Captain America design because of the collar. It almost feels reminiscent of a Bomb Squad vest, right? I think this Cap design might be better than the Marvel Rivals one. Also, I have to give it to Arc System Works because I have never liked... her name's Miss Marvel, right? I've never liked Miss Marvel. I've always thought she's mega cringe. This is the first time I've ever seen Miss Marvel and thought she looked good. I think the character design, this is the first time Miss Marvel has ever had an appealing character design. So I have to give them credit for making a previously disliked character of mine actually seem nice. Yeah, she actually looks endearing here. You know, if this is how she was introduced to me originally, I probably would have always considered myself, I probably would have always considered her to be a decent character if this is how she were introduced to me. So my point is, if they're able to take a character I don't like and turn her into a character that I think looks good, I can only imagine what they're going to do to my favorites, right? Because if you told me Miss Marvel's in the game, like if you told me Miss Marvel's in the game and oh, she's super useful, or oh, she has really good synergy with the character I actually want to play, I would kind of groan a little bit and think, I don't want to play her. But seeing how she plays in this and seeing how she looks and moves in this, I actually wouldn't mind playing her. Which is crazy to me. Spider-Man. Guys, this isn't Spider-Man. This is Spider-Man from Kamen Rider. Not Marvel Spider-Man. I'm not excited that we have the wall break from Strive because I hate that mechanic. But I do have to admit that it does sell the power fantasy of playing as superheroes and villains in a game like this. Because, you know, whenever you think of superhero fights, you're blasting people through walls and stuff, right? To sell the level of destruction. So I think it might be a little bit more justified in a game like this than in Strive, but I do hope that they deal with the wall break a little bit differently. I forgot Lucy was going into Strive. That's crazy. I forgot about that. Dude, Star-Lord's super there is straight up Dante's lockdown super, his jackpot super. It's crazy how similar it is. Robbie Reyes. Okay, so Johnny Blaze is one of my favorite Marvel characters. I said I'm not a huge Marvel fan. I'm a very casual Marvel fan, but there are a few Marvel characters I really, really like. Johnny Blaze, Daredevil, and Hulk. Those are the three that I really, really like. I do not like Robbie Reyes at all. You might be thinking, that's crazy. Why would I dislike Robbie Reyes, a Ghost Rider, if Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider is one of my favorites? It's because if there are any comic fans in chat or in the comments, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I would love to be wrong about this. But from what I understand, Robbie Reyes is not possessed by a primordial spirit of vengeance like Johnny Blaze and the other Ghost Riders are. He's possessed by some random dude, by some random Satanist or something that did some kind of ritual when he died to turn himself into a ghost, and then he possessed Robbie Reyes. That's not even the same thing at all. So why would he be called the same thing? Why would he be called a Ghost Rider if that's not at all the same thing that turned the other Ghost Riders into Ghost Rider, right? I think that's incredibly stupid, but I do think it's neat that he's in this game because we already got Johnny Blaze in Capcom's fighting game. So I do think it's neat that they are adding Ghost Rider, but having it be different because you don't want it to be the exact same as Marvel vs. Capcom. So from a gameplay standpoint, I think it's cool that Robbie is in this instead of Johnny Blaze. But personally, I have a bone to pick with Robbie Reyes a little bit, just in terms of the character and the story. So I have to say that. I have to add that disclaimer in case people hear me complaining about Robbie Reyes later. I haven't read the Immortal Hulk comic, but I did read on Wikipedia what happens in it, and I think it sounds awesome. So I would definitely be down to read it if there were some feasible way of reading comics aside from going out and buying them. Not that I'm opposed to spending money, but just going out and having to figure out how to buy all the volumes or whatever seems kind of obtuse to me. Something that has me a little bit worried about Robbie Reyes, aside from just being Robbie Reyes, is that his chain attacks seem very reminiscent of Axel. Yeah, Planet Hulk, I'm familiar with that one as well. More wall break. By the way, is this a Daredevil stage? Because this is a law firm right here with the Scales of Justice, and we have the boxing gym right beside it. So I'm thinking that's probably a Daredevil stage, right? Dude, I think of all the characters in this trailer, Doom looks the most fun to me. Because he has a really slow walk, but he has a teleport dash which can cross up, which is very similar to Lord Zedd from Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, and Lord Zedd was my favorite character in that game. So he seems to be similar in that regard. Kind of a character that you have to play sort of methodically with his slow walk, but being able to dash through people. Also, this super is so cold with the gun. And it looks as if hidden missiles has been replaced with an orbital laser. So as much as I love to hate hidden missiles, I am not particularly disappointed about getting an orbital laser instead, because if you notice the laser, it takes a while to come out, so you have some setups with it, right? Like he did a cross-up setup here. It's actually really reminiscent of Don Kuga's laser from Iron Saga Versus. Don Kuga has a laser that he fires directly upward in the air, and then it falls down onto the opponent. Actually, that doesn't make sense. The laser doesn't curve, right? He fires a tracker or something on the opponent, and then the laser comes in. But my point is that you're able to set things up the same way that Doom is able to set up this. It looks as if his air dash teleports through things as well, also, like that. Air grab. Yeah, you have to do the that animation to call out the laser. So he's doing it on Oki here. Storm with the anti-air assist. That might be a really popular assist. Yeah, it's weird hearing all of them in Japanese. But all the voices do sound really cool so far, so I don't even know if I'm going to want to put it in English when I play it. I'll give my thoughts on 4v4 when I go back through the video. What's the name of this mechanic again when you're able to tag people in during a juggle? I always forgot that was a thing in Marvel 3. Hulkbuster might just be a super. The impact frame on that's crazy. I know, it's crazy. They're getting Star-Lord before MVC. I did watch everything that followed as well. So I already know all the information they say in that. So I would rather right now go through the trailer very slowly. So in terms of the designs, I already said, I think it's crazy how much they deviated from the original design with Iron Man. Personally, as a huge Mobile Suit Gundam fan and as a Tokusatsu fan as well, it does feel as if it is aggressively targeting me by turning him into a Gundam or a Kamen Rider type design, but I do wonder if they deviated a bit too far from the original design, because that amount of gray on the face and the V-fin, I think maybe changes him a little too much. I think that the V-fin, even though I love V-fins, because like I said, I'm a huge Gundam fan. But I think it changes the silhouette too much. I think silhouettes are important. And I think Iron Man, just having, if you're thinking about the classic Iron Man design of having the perfectly flat sides of the head and then it being round on top, makes him feel like this heavily armored thing, right? Whereas the V-fin might make him seem a bit more acrobatic and agile, just more angular. It's really shape language, I think. It makes him look more angular, right? More triangles, makes him seem more angular and aggressive instead of being a super defensive thing in a suit of armor. Because if you wanted to communicate that through shape language, you'd want to use more squares and circles, right? Whereas this is more triangles. So that's a little bit of a nitpick. I do think it looks awesome, though. And I do know it's targeting me specifically, so I appreciate that. But if I were in charge of the game, I would probably tell them to not change the face silhouette that much, even though it looks awesome. Captain America's design, I think, might be perfect. Like I said, I really like the collar because it feels evocative of some kind of bomb squad vest. I don't think it's over-designed either. Okay, let me look at the animations here. So, them doing this attack here is just a transition for the trailer, right? Because it does seem similar to in Dragon Ball FighterZ when you knock out a character, it forces you back to neutral. You know how in Dragon Ball FighterZ you knock out a character and then there's a very short animation of them flying into each other and they kind of clash their arms together and then they bounce away from each other. But in this case, they don't bounce back to neutral, which is making me think that it's just a transition for the trailer and not necessarily indicative of some kind of reset to neutral after you knock out a character like in Dragon Ball FighterZ. That looks like some kind of, magic series into a special. Air dash. I wonder if they'll make Iron Man an 8-way air dasher. This looks like dust, right? Because, man, they go so high. This is a question I actually have regarding the game. This looks like a down heavy or just some kind of universal launcher move that would give you access to air combos in a Marvel vs. Capcom game, right? But with this being Arc System Works, and seeing the big camera angle change after the launch, it makes me worry that it's a bit more like Dust. And I'm not really a huge fan of Dust from Guilty Gear. I think it's very tacked on to the rest of the mechanics and doesn't really synergize with any of the other mechanics at all. It feels kind of like a gimmick. 1, 2. See, he only does 2 attacks here. So we don't know if that's because it's like Dust or if it's because they're just not showing off optimal stuff in the trailer. So I don't know if you can do big aerial combos like in Marvel vs. Capcom. I hope that you can. The thing that gives me a little bit of hope is that you go so much higher in the air in this after that launcher than with Dust in Guilty Gear. So that makes me think, well, if they're letting you go that high, it must be because they want you to do some crazy air stuff, right? But we will see. That's something I am super curious about. That's probably one of my top questions about the game so far. Also, I like the smear frame on Cap's shield. Yeah, good smear frames with the stripes. Tag Miss Marvel in. And so he called the assist. That flash must have been the assist. And then that animation of the gold particle going into her, that must have been taking control over her, right? During the animation of the assist. So her weird spot dodge thing she does here with the back bend, I think she's doing it from a dash, which is why she's sliding, because she's keeping momentum from the dash, which is very much a Guilty Gear thing. Guilty Gear very much revolves around being able to keep your momentum. Yeah, a lot of moves in Guilty Gear you need to do out of a dash or another move in order for you to be advancing when you do it. So that does seem similar. In case you were wondering if this really were an Arc Systems game and not a Capcom game. I love unique block animations. I'm assuming that this is Iron Man's unique block animation with this transparent shield. Maybe he's using some kind of defensive mechanic to negate chip damage or something, but I'm inclined to think that this is a unique block animation. And then he does the alpha counter into Spider-Man, which immediately gives you a launch. Wow, okay, so it didn't make him tag into Spider-Man. He just did the alpha counter, which used the assist, but he's not controlling the assist right now. He's able to combo the alpha counter into the beam and then tag into Spider-Man and keep the combo going. That's pretty crazy. That looks like a counter. Comboing off of it. Again, not entirely thrilled about the wall break mechanic, but I do think that it fits this game more than Strive thematically, just given that it's about superheroes and villains, because it sells the power fantasy a bit better. But I am hoping that they change the mechanic a little bit. I hope it doesn't play exactly how the wall break works in Strive, because I'm not a fan of how it plays in Strive. So that looks like web zip, right? Even on block, it was pulling him forward. Cap's shield toss here goes out and comes back pretty fast. It's crazy they got Star-Lord before Capcom. Dude, the animation of this and the cadence of it is so much like Dante, right? One pose fires a bunch, changes pose, fires a bunch, spins around, fires like that. It's the exact same keyframing and everything. It's crazy. That looks like it might have been some unique Star-Lord movement. That, right? Maybe it's his version of an air dash, right? Maybe his air dash is just arced a little bit, or maybe it's his own unique movement. The freeze pretty much writes itself into fighting games. You don't really need much imagination to know how useful that would be. Although I do appreciate how quickly they break out. It's not like a Mortal Kombat freeze from Sub-Zero. How did Spider-Man get through that? Oh, that was his counter. I didn't notice. Maybe it's more like a... Is that the attack he did out of the counter last time? Maybe it doesn't go straight into a specific attack, but maybe it's just some kind of stance, and then you can cancel out of it and go into a different move. Right? Maybe it's like Spider Sense stance, in which you'll auto-dodge all highs or something, and then you can cancel out of it into any move you want. Tagging into Robbie. Yeah, his gameplay, again, it seems pretty reminiscent of Axel. I already said that this stage looks like a Daredevil stage, right? Looks like maybe a law firm there, and there's the gym right beside it. Star-Lord does have a regular air dash right there. So we do know that his air dash isn't replaced with that arcing flip he did. It must be additional movement. It would make sense if Star-Lord has a lot of tricky aerial movement, though, because what else is he going to do? Looks like he was about to do a jump in there from the air dash. That looked like the startup frames of some kind of jump in kick. But Robbie does some kind of DP here. That move looks really good. That fire attack, man. Johnny Blaze in the Capcom games has a fire attack that is a lot like that, but the pose of shooting the fire out specifically in the air actually reminds me more so of Firebrand than Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. Also, I wonder if his car will be only delegated to supers, because I think one of the other downsides of having Robbie over Johnny Blaze is that he can't use the motorcycle in combat, right? So if he has a car, it's probably just going to be relegated to the supers. But if you actually can use the car, when I say to supers, I'm talking about like the cinematic supers. So if you get a car install, I think that would be awesome, right? Because in MVC, Johnny Blaze can get the motorcycle as an install super, sort of. And I think that's really awesome. But I wonder if they would do that with a car, because a car might just be too big. So if you're not able to drive the car around like an install, I think that would be sad, because if you're not able to drive the car around, you might as well have just used Johnny Blaze so you could drive the motorcycle around. But that gives me hope that you will be able to drive the car around, because why would you opt for Robbie over Johnny if you're not going to use the car as an install, right? Okay, what's Doom doing? He does the teleport dash. Oh wait, no, he does that when he goes into the gun super. Doom might be a grappler, okay? Because we see him do an air grab, and right here, when you tag him in, he just immediately dashes forward. He dashes forward and goes into this grab animation. I don't know if it would be a command grab. It seems crazy if it would be a command grab and not a hit grab, but then again, it's 4v4, so the power levels can be really high if you have access to throwing out these 3 assists at any given time, because you could use these 3 assists so defensively by just chucking them out all the time. Maybe you do need to have tools, offensive tools, that are really strong to still be able to get in, right? So maybe Doom does have a forward advancing command grab. I think that would be awesome. And look, it doesn't let him combo after it, at least not easily, right? Because it goes into this animation, he slashes him. immediately gets knocked down really far away, and it looks as if Doom has to take a while to recover. So that seems like it could be a command grab animation. This is when he does the Z dash through into the super. Dude, the impact frame on that was crazy. Yeah, doing the Don Kuga laser setup, which is presumably replacing hidden missiles. Dude, I didn't even notice before. Look at the attention to detail on the animation, okay? Look at how the red light from the laser is reflecting off of him and casting harsher shadows as he's walking by it. That's crazy. Yeah, see, he has an air grab. I think Doom might be a grappler. I knew he looked the most fun out of these characters so far. But dude, look how far he went with that air dash. Look how far it took him. Look, he's starting right here. That's almost a full screen teleporting air dash. That's crazy. It's caught by the anti-air storm assist though. That might make her a really popular assist. Tags into her, into super. I don't know if there's much to say about Storm's combo here. It was kind of interesting though that she did this win to pull them down, because it looks as if that might be independent from this move. So I'm curious if you could sort of manipulate the speed at which the opponent falls in other situations as well. Situations aside from just using this move. Okay, so personally, I think 4v4 is kind of a meme, because I think 3v3 is already enough, and it really feels as if they're doing 4v4 just to show off to Capcom, just to rub salt in the wound a little bit harder. Like, oh, look, we're going to one-up you by making it 4v4. I'm not necessarily opposed to it, though, because even though I think it's unnecessarily crazy, I'm never really going to complain about a game being made crazier. It's going to be a lot of assists that you have access to. And like I said, assists can be used very defensively. So if you have a ton of assists being used defensively, like, what I'm thinking of, I already said my three favorite characters are Johnny Blaze, Daredevil, Hulk, right? And Johnny Blaze isn't getting in this game because we have Robbie already. So I'm super excited to see how Daredevil and Hulk are in this game. So if I'm thinking of Hulk and it's being made by Arc System Works, I'm thinking, are they going to make him Potemkin sized, specifically Potemkin's size from Strive? Is he going to actually be huge like Potemkin in Strive, unlike how Hulk is weirdly small in Marvel Rivals? And I'm thinking, okay, they could make him Potemkin size, because that would sound like what Arc System Works would do. But you can't make him as slow as Potemkin. Hulk has to be fast, right? He's not a slow character. So if you're going to make a character as big as Hulk and as fast as Hulk, to balance it, it still has to be hard for him to get in. So maybe having access to 3 different assists that you're able to just spam, maybe that is going to be how a character like Hulk would be balanced, because maybe even with Hulk being fast, it would be incredibly hard to get in if you're just a big body that's constantly getting hit by all these assists, right? Like at all these assists that attack you at different angles. So you might just have to block a lot as Hulk to get in. So if you really do have access to 3 assists that you can spam a lot and you can use them defensively, like I said earlier, it would mean that the offensive options have to be proportionately strong to make it where the game isn't overly defensive. So it being 4v4 makes me more excited about just character power levels being crazy high to compete against an opponent that's using assists defensively. That's my perspective on it. So I am excited about the whole 4v4 thing, even though I think it's unnecessary. Dude, there are going to be some crazy sequences with that many character models on screen. Dude, imagine the amount of stuff you'll have to lab if that many characters can have active hitboxes on screen at once. Looks like Cap threw his shield upwards at an angle that time. Yeah, it looks as if he has an upward one. It went out a lot further than last time, though. So maybe you actually control when it comes back. Or maybe it came back earlier last time just because it hit somebody earlier. Doom has an anti-air one as well. Yeah, I forget what this mechanic is called. But you can do it with all 4 characters. I think that's good for the trailer to show off the 4v4 element. The way the 2 final characters attack the opponent at the same time from opposite sides, it reminds me of the team-up super that Capcom added to Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite when they added Bucky. So Bucky or Winter Soldier and Captain America. This was the only super in the game that would do this, but a lot of people were and are still under the impression that Capcom was planning on adding more of these types of supers in the game because it would have been so cool to have one with X and Zero. Surely they were going to do one for X and Zero as well, but they never got around to it, obviously, because they pulled the plug on that game. But with Winter Soldier and Captain America, if you did a super with them, it would have a unique animation. So it was a super, I forgot if it was Captain America's super or Winter Soldier's super, but with one of those characters, they would have a super that you could do like normal. But if you had both Cap and Bucky on the same team, you would get a longer animation of them teaming up together. And at the end, they would, Bucky would punch the opponent while Cap shield bashes them from the opposite side at the same time. And it feels very reminiscent of this. The Disney $1 million tournament. The less Disney has to do with this game, the better. Dude, Hulkbuster would be an insane install. But I'm thinking it's probably just a cinematic super, right? If Hulkbuster's an install, I might have to play Iron Man, which sounds crazy to me because I've never been interested in playing Iron Man in any of the Capcom games, ever. Yeah, and again, I can't believe they made Miss Marvel appealing. She's actually an appealing character. Which is the first time I've ever thought that. Going to hop off for now, catch me later. Okay, Hyde. I'm going to watch the Xbox Game Showcase and the Summer Game Fest after this. I don't think anything as exciting as Marvel Tōkon happens in either of those. Although I did hear that the Summer Game Fest has a ton of Souls-likes. I heard that people were complaining about the sheer amount of Souls-likes. The Doom bots look crazy. I don't think I've actually looked at their designs yet of their faces. If Doom has some moves in which he can call out the Doom bots, that'll make him even more like Lord Zed. Dude, the impact frame of him closing his fist is insane. I guess it would be faster if I just did this. That impact frame is so good. Robbie, as depicted by Arc System Works, is feeling very Chainsaw Man coded to me. I thought that when I saw this super. This shot of Star-Lord's super is also feeling very familiar to me, but I don't think I can quite remember what it is. But I know I've seen a super like this before, where the explosion happens behind them because they turn around. Oh, they still have time to change the title. Also, I think it's actually pretty fitting they use Captain America and Iron Man as the sort of flagship characters for the reveal, because I didn't think about it until now, but I just now realized they're sort of the they're the faces of each side when it comes to the Civil War arc, right? So maybe that's why they did that. Because the only villain they showed off here was Doom. So they couldn't have framed it as heroes versus villains in this trailer, at least. None of this footage is new, right? Actually, I don't remember that. I don't remember Doom doing that. What even happens there? Kamala's hitting Robbie into Doom. Is that an assist? Does the Doom assist just face wherever the opponent is? But Star-Lord's jumping right there and is facing Kamala, so Star-Lord must be the enemy. But if Star-Lord's the enemy, and Robbie is Star-Lord's assist, what did that mean? Doom is also Star-Lord's assist, and he's using it defensively? But if he's using it defensively, why is it hitting Robbie? Because that would be on the same team, right? This clip is so confusing. that 1.5 second clip.
I remember personally the first time I saw Iron Man was really when I felt we had something special.
なので今回のアイアンマンのデザインを皆さんご覧いただければわかると思うんですけども、かなりこう日本らしい。
Yeah, that might have been one of the first ones they designed as sort of an art direction test to see how much creative liberty they could take by making the designs more Japanese. See, I feel like they could have done one without the V-fin.
日本らしいアークシステムワークスらしいデザインっていうのが、出ているかなと思う。日本らしいアークシステムワークスらしい。
Did we ever see his face in the gameplay, or is this the only time they're showing it off?
デザインっていうのが、
I think they might have shown it for a split second. So much happens in that trailer.
反応がすこぶる良くて、あ、これなんだみたいないう感じで、マーベルの皆さんの反応がすこぶる良くて。
You see Iron Man's get up animation. He uses the thrust on his hands.
あ、これなんだみたいないう感じで。
Iron Man is supposed to be the sleek fighter jet. Think luxury race car mixed with a. Iron Man.
Oh yeah, okay, they do show his face. It looks like a walkout animation. Dude, this attack is kind of similar to something he has in the Capcom games, and it's so useless in the Capcom games. It looks actually good here.
Fighter jet.
The fact that it's sort of a delayed projectile, you can use that to get in.
Race car mixed with a brick house, and the fact that they.
Oh no, that's a victory animation. That's 100% a victory animation.
It just felt really naturally at home.
One of the mantras that we have for this project is from Japan to the world, and really trying to take not just the IP but gameplay mechanics and say what can we really take from Japan, the creators that are doing awesome work here, and bring that to the global platform.
まあ特別なところいっぱいあるんですけど、まあ本当にやっぱり強調すべきは。
Oh, he threw the shield straight up that time.
いっぱいあるんですけど、まあ本当にやっぱり。
I wonder if it's the same input, but you can throw it out omnidirectionally, kind of like Gold. Is his name Gold Lewis? The guy with the coffin from Strive.
強調すべきは、まあ格闘ゲームのチームバトルの中では4対4というのがまず本当に意欲的で挑戦的なところだというところと。
When Ark looks at these Marvel characters, it's not simply just the visuals; it's also the gameplay mechanics and adding in that what is that pop? What is going to be something that's different? Up until now.
Does anybody know why there would be a Triceratops 3D model? What kind of stages are we getting? A devil dinosaur or whatever it's called?
We just had to go 4v4, and in doing so, we found a lot of unique and fun ways to change up the gameplay that I think players are going to be very excited to see.
まあ、今回4対4という、まあ、革新的なところにチャレンジしている中で4キャラクター練習しないと勝てないんじゃないか。
Okay, that was a bit longer of an air combo, and he got a wall splat off of
安
it.
心してください。
Learning 4 characters is extremely daunting, but the team
ないんじゃないか。
That is a...
learning 4 characters is extremely
I don't know why I didn't mention it when I was going through the footage,
daunting,
but that is a low crush.
but
That looks like a universal
勝てないんじゃないのとか。
low crush as well. Kind of like the universal low and high crushes from City of the Wolves, because
learning 4 characters is extremely daunting,
of the whole camera angle change. That makes it seem like a universal mechanic to me.
but the team at Arc System Works has found a way to design a system that adapts to your playstyle. So you can either duke it out as just the leader and 3 assists, or you can tag in your assists to swap the leader and
I still don't know what they mean by that, because is it like a Skullgirls situation in which you can just choose to play one character and they have a bigger HP bar? Or is he saying that you always are able to switch to your assists, but you don't need to, right? Maybe it's a shared HP pool. Maybe it's a shared HP pool, and you only have to kill one of the characters to win the round. I think that's probably the case, because if you have to knock out each character, making it 4v4 from 3v3 means it's either going to take way longer to finish a match, or the characters are going to have even less HP, right? And these characters in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 already are glass cannons. They already get TOD'd on every hit. So lowering their HP wouldn't really change much. So if you really did have to knock out each character individually, it would probably end up taking way longer if you did 4v4. So I'm thinking it's probably just a shared HP pool. So you can just sit on your one character the whole time and just call the other ones in as assists. I don't think it's going to be a Skullgirl situation, although it is a little ambiguous based on how he said it here.
change the matchup on the fly.
I don't think a lot of people thought this day would be here, would come. You know, this has just been an awesome journey, and I'm excited that we get to be able to share it with all the fans out there.
I'll tell you right now, a lot of fighting games, they never get to experience this level of production, and it's just a dream to even be working with these two great partners.
それは決してビジネスという枠組みではなくて、それぞれの強い思いの中でこのタイトルを成功させよう、いいゲームにしてファンに届けようと。
The three companies
That also reminds me, I need to watch the Shin Getter Robo trailer for Iron Saga Versus.
together to do this, and
I should have done that at the start, because I think that was before State of Play.
here.
このタイトルですね、まだまだ開発途中ではありますが、続々とキャラクターも発表していきたいと思いますし、キャラクター以外のコンテンツというところも今後いろいろ出ていくと思います。今しばらく楽しみにお待ちいただければなと思います。Stay tuned.
There's a tiny bit of new footage there with Robbie pulling them in.
思います。Stay tuned.
That move. The camera work makes it look like a super to me. I think that camera change with Cap might just be a wall break animation. Yeah, that's a crazy thing to end the stream with.